The Musicians Hall of Fame and Museum has been without a permanent home the last several years since construction began on the new Music City Center. Fortunately, founders Joe and Linda Chambers have persevered, and now the museum can once again be a major attraction for music fans of all genres. We had a chance to celebrate at the grand reopening of the exhibits at the new home in Nashville's Municipal Auditorium. Here's Jennifer Vickery with more.
Well, it is the grand reopening of one of Music City's true gems, the Musicians Hall of Fame, and Joe Chambers, the man behind the reason that we are here for this grand reopening, is with us today. Congratulations to you. I know so much hard work went into this.
Yeah, it was a surprise building it twice in that amount of time, but I think really in the long run, for the longevity, it needed to be in a big, iconic building, and this is what this is.
Yeah, this is huge, and it feels just like a leisurely, wonderful walk through.
You know, people would come in the old museum, which was great.
It was.
And they go, oh, so was this a studio, or was this, nah, it was an electrical company, and there was a shoe company. It was the 3 different buildings, But this is a 50-year-old venue that musicians worked in and recorded in live shows. But he had the James Brown, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Conway Twitty, it's upstairs in the auditorium, and this is where we'll have our award shows, and we got a place now for all the musicians who've asked over the years, can we play a benefit from you guys? And we had, before we had 350 seats, now we got 10,000.
Well, Charlie McCoy is joining me now, and Charlie has stories to tell, I am told, and I'm guessing that there's something in here perhaps that belong to you that folks can see when they visit?
Yeah, the bass I played on 3 Bob Dylan albums is here, on John Wesley Harding, Nashville Skyline, and Self-Portrait.
Wow, that's so cool. And then the one I'm most enamored with is the fact that you played the harmonica on He Stopped Loving Her Today. Wow.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite record I've ever played on. That and Old Dogs, Children, Watermelon Wine by Tom T. Hall.
That would be the other favorite there? Yeah. Well, I talked to Bobby Braddock not too long ago, and we talked about that particular song, and I asked him the question, did you guys know when you were in the studio and laying down the tracks and everything for that, the impact that song would have this many years later?
Every once in a while on a session, the musicians get a feeling. There was a feeling in the room that day. Absolutely. Tell
me what it means to you for the efforts that Joe Chambers and his team went through to make sure that folks like me can walk in the door and just truly enjoy this part of music history.
Well, it's a miracle in a lot of different ways, on a lot of different levels. But Joe, when he first came to town with his little band, I was the first to record him and his band in Columbia Studio A. Billy Sherrill, the famous producer, took an interest and a liking to Joe, and although they did not get a record deal with Columbia Records, Joe just hung around the studio, and we became good friends, and Joe stayed here, and the rest of the band, I guess, went on about their way. But Joe stayed and started writing songs and had some success writing. He's a great musician, and he fell in love with the process, because we'd let him hang around the studio all the time, and man, he just loved it, and who wouldn't? I mean, be hanging around while George Jones is cutting a record.
Yeah, I would have liked that.
Oh, yeah, and you're in the room when they're cutting these major records and these major hits. So Joe just fell in love with it, and he's a very personable guy and all that, obviously, but I can't imagine anybody else would have taken the time and the effort that it took to put all this together, to devote to the people behind the scenes.
As a musician, why do you think it's important that this stuff is archived and saved and not put away somewhere, but out for people to truly enjoy?
Well, I think especially in today's climate, when intellectual property is becoming more and more undervalued, and the worker and the laborer are becoming more and more taken for granted, and it's all about corporate profits, and just the whole, the whole social media thing where people don't listen like they used to. I think there's a whole generation that's completely unaware of what happens, backstage, and they hear these great records and they don't realize that they may have been created by a group of musicians who maybe had a 5 or 10, 12-year career in the studios and were part of a wave, but because of how they worked together and interacted together and they showed up every day, they created this great music.
If you're interested in checking out all the incredible exhibits, hours are Monday through Saturday, 10 a to 5 p. Make sure to check out musicianshall-of-fame.com for all the latest information. Now it's time for our weekly songwriter tip. This week, we sit down with hit writer Ben Hayslip as he talks about how hard you have to work if you want to succeed.
When I moved to town, the first week I moved here, I read an article in Music Row magazine that said less than 1% of the people who move here ever make it in the music business. So from that day forward, I told myself either go home or outwork everybody here. And that's been my philosophy since I moved to town. I'm going to outwork the next guy every day of my life. And that's the best advice I can give any songwriter is you got to show up every day. Whether you feel like it or not, you got to show up and you got to play the game.
For more information on the craft of songwriting, check out NashvilleSongwriters.com. That's about all the time we have for this week's show, but don't forget those new Redneck Crazy discs we have up for grabs this week from Tyler Farr. If you want to enter this week's drawing, head on over to InsideMusicRow.com to get signed up. You can also check out each of our episodes online at Zeus.com/InsideMusicRow. Check out the latest music videos in any genre while you're there too. Don't forget to come on back next week when we catch up with Joe Nichols to talk crickets. We'll leave you today with that #1 hit from Brett Eldridge. Here is Don't Ya. Until next time, I'm Bailey for Inside Music Row, and I'll see you again real soon.